a character that basically is just a food person and has a whole ass attitude, I'm not going to necessarily lie. I immediately am not necessarily like for it. I don't really care for it. It's never been my cup of tea. Not necessarily something I can think can be done well in anime. And then when 100 girlfriends decide to be like, hey, we have that, and she's cute, I slowly realized that yes, anime can pull a lot of stuff that I don't like and then somehow be able to make it work. Not everything, because F NTR, no sir, but when it comes down to it, it does somehow make it work. So what I basically wanted to really talk about is essentially just 100 Girlfriend as a concept, because obviously it's a good ass show. If you haven't watched it, please do. And obviously it's having a very good animated style and very much characters that you will probably care for, you know, and even characters that you probably normally wouldn't, you probably do. And that's the crazy part. But when it comes down to it though, it does bring up a concern for the future of the show and just the future of the series, to kind of think about it like in a way where it's like, oh, well, how is 100 different women going to work out? Because there's only so many you can do before it either can turn stale as a concept, or it's going to basically, you know, cut out screen time for certain characters and things of the sort like that. Because that's like my biggest thing about it, right? Because I could see it maybe lasting like a season or two or three, but then after that, it's like, do you want to continue forward with that? Because, you know, that's a bit of a risk to do. And then are we going to see Hakari and like all the other girls like we first met up consistently, or are they going to get booted out of the story? Like, there's so much that can very much go wrong with the idea of just going around 100 different characters, right? It sounds fun on paper, but it's very hard and not the easiest thing to pull off. And luckily this is a story that doesn't really have too much story, and it's just like, oh yeah, 100 different chicks, let's go. And that's essentially how it is. But in terms of like, you know, still, even with a comedic type of tone, it's still not easy to pull off by any means. And that's why I kind of had to go into a comedy sort of sense, at least in my personal brain, because in any other instance, you'll be missing details or you're probably forgetting stuff, and that's not the easiest thing to pull off, honestly. But luckily, the show is funny. Luckily, it actually is really good, and honestly, it's leagues ahead of Big Head Neko. I'm just gonna say that for sure. There's definitely a reason why this lasts more in my brain to watch than something like Big Head Neko, and the reason for that is very simply put, this show has more personality and substance than what Big Head Neko could obviously do. Like, don't get wrong, you get some good shit in Big Head Neko as well, and I don't want to put that series down, but at the same time, it's definitely nothing like what 100 Girlfriends have. You know, and compared to like a lot of the other romance stuff that came out last year, it's some of the best, at least currently, because it's like, well, if you look at something like what Renzo Girlfriend, you want that shit, you know, and apparently the NCR scene that's infamous as hell in the manga is going to get animated for some reason, so there's that. Like, what, you want like other romance shows that probably don't necessarily hit the high standard that you would want it to be. There's like tons of it that doesn't really hit well, and it's just not necessarily something that I would be for, but somehow, you know, 100 Girlfriends and make it work out, and it's really dang good, and that's actually kind of hilarious. There's not many times where anime make me laugh, but this show genuinely does at times, and it's really dang good. But my only concern is how far will you stretch this whole type of, I guess, narrative when it comes down to the style of it? Because let's take a guess. Oh, you get like a whole, you know, girl that come out of nowhere. You introduce them. You have their problem, you know, kind of be solved in the second episode. And then that's basically about it. Just asked to be in the group. And that's pretty much going to be always a yes answer. Sometimes you might get 3 episodes of that character. And then that's basically about it, right? And, you know, you're just going to be people that's going to be like, oh, well, this girlfriend is my favorite character, or that person is, you know, or, you know, cut out some time for the previous people that we've seen, like, in the very beginning. Like, I'll be damned if I see Shizuka get cut out in some shape and form. That will toss me for a dang loop, and I'm not necessarily for that. So, when it comes down to it, it's just not something that I am, like, vibing with when it comes down to the idea of adding more characters and potentially cutting out the screen time, it doesn't seem good. It doesn't seem like a good idea, but it most likely will end up that way, depending on how long this series will go for, if it even reaches 100, you know? Which I feel like, because you set the precedent, you might as well do it no matter what the hell happens, unless a cancellation comes through, which I hope doesn't happen, you know? And that's basically about it. So while it's a good concept on paper, and while it's doing its thing and it really is a good show, it still brings up that worrying aspect where it's like, okay, can we actually do it without, you know, losing our audience? Can we actually do it in that sort of way? Or is it going to be at a point where, you know, who knows, he might, you know, I guess like Rentaro could get on like a TV program or a national like thing or whatever, and essentially everybody looks at him at once, and then boom, that's 100 girlfriends, and you get that like that. It could be a cop out. I can see it happening, but you never really know, and that's kind of like the risk with, you know, something like this and the pattern of how it goes. It's entertaining now, it's good now, but how far are you gonna go with that? That's the huge question. And how many tropes can you not repeat? That's again another huge question. So that's just kind of like the cons of, you know, 100 girlfriends compared to like other stuff that's out there, because obviously, yes, this is a harem show and you do need to have characters that stand out and be crazy creative, but for 100, I don't know how far we can go about that. But that's really all I want to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification on your way out. Also follow me on socials, and let's donate to the channel. Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's Boy J, sign off. Have a blessed day.